The shuttle docked with a soft hiss of pressure seals. Through the small window, watched the massive space station grow larger until it filled his entire view. Exodus Prime, the biggest training station in the Galactic Union, a place where species from across the galaxy sent their best in to learn, to train, and to prove themselves. Picked up his small bag and stood. He was not tall, he was not large. He looked like any other human male in his late 20s. Brown eyes, black hair cut short, a face that was easy to forget. He wore simple gray clothes with no markings, no medals, no signs of rank. His documentation said one thing: Trainee Observation Program. The airlock opened. Cold, recycled air rushed in, stepped onto the station. The arrival bay was enormous. Hundreds of beings moved in every direction. Some walked on two legs like him, others floated, some crawled. A few moved in ways that could not easily describe. Colors, sounds, and smells mixed together in a storm of alien life. A tall creature with blue skin and 4 arms noticed and made a sound of disgust. It walked away quickly, as if standing near a human was somehow shameful. Did not react. He simply walked forward toward the registration desk. The station official behind the desk was a species known for their excellent memory and love of paperwork. The official had gray skin, large black eyes, and thin fingers that moved across holographic screens with great speed. Name, the official asked without looking up. Human, Earth origin. The official paused, its large eyes blinked twice. Human, it repeated as if the word tasted strange. You are a trainee. Yes. We do not get many humans here. Your species is new, young. The official looked at simple clothes and small bag. You travel light. I need very little. The official made a note and handed a small device. This is your station pass. Your quarters are in Section 7, low priority housing. Your training group assignment will come tomorrow. Do not cause trouble. Took the device and bowed his head slightly. Thank you. As he walked away, the official watched him go with a puzzled expression. There was something strange about that human, something the official could not name, but the feeling passed quickly and there was more paperwork to complete. Section 7 was exactly what expected. Small rooms, thin walls, the housing given to species that nobody cared about. He found his assigned quarters and stepped inside. The room was barely large enough for a bed, a small desk, and a storage unit. The window showed only the black emptiness of space. Set his bag on the bed and looked around. He had lived in worse places, much worse. This room was clean, quiet, and safe. That was enough. He sat on the bed and closed his eyes. For a long moment he simply breathed, in and out, slow and steady. His heartbeat dropped, his muscles relaxed. This was a technique he had learned long ago, a way to rest without truly sleeping, a way to stay ready. A knock on his door broke the silence. Opened his eyes but did not move quickly. He stood slowly and walked to the door. When it slid open, he found another human standing outside. This human was older, perhaps 40 years old. He had gray at his temples and lines around his eyes. He wore the uniform of a Galactic Union liaison officer. His name tag said it was not a question. Yes. Looked left and right down the corridor. Then he stepped inside. The door closed behind him. You arrived on schedule, said quietly. Good. How was your journey? Uneventful. That's best, studied's face carefully. You remember your cover. I am a trainee, cultural exchange, observation program. I am here to learn about other species and share human culture. I am not important. I am not interesting. I am not a threat. Nodded slowly. And you believe you can maintain this for the duration? His expression did not change. I have maintained worse for longer. I know, looked uncomfortable. I have read your file, the parts that were not blacked out at least. He paused. The station commander does not know why you are really here. Only 3 people on this station know the truth. You, me, and one other contact you will never meet unless everything goes wrong. I understand. Do you? Stepped closer. This is not like your previous assignments. Here you must be invisible, patient. You are watching, waiting, nothing more. If the threat we suspect is real, you will identify it and report. You will not engage unless there is no other choice. Met his eyes, and if there is no other choice. Did not answer immediately. The silence stretched between them. Finally, he said, "Then God help whoever made that necessary." He turned to leave but stopped at the door. "One more thing, there are on this station, a full hunting party, 12 of them." For the first time something flickered in his eyes, interest perhaps, or something darker, the apex hunters. Yes, they are here for some kind of elite training exchange. The Galactic Union wants to improve relations with them. His voice dropped even lower. They are dangerous beyond measure, 7 feet tall, natural bone armor. They can smell fear from 50 meters away. Every species on this station is afraid of them. I am aware of what are. Then you know to be careful. They notice things. They watch things. If anyone on this station will see through your cover, it will be them. Said nothing. Open the door. Rest tonight. Tomorrow you join your training group. Be what we need you to be. Invisible, forgettable, small. I will. Left, the door closed, stood alone in his small room. He walked to the window and looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there was Earth, his home, a world of blue oceans and green forests, a world of storms and earthquakes, a world where everything tried to kill you and only the strong survived. The galaxy thought humans were weak, new, unimportant. They saw small bodies and short. They did not see what lay beneath. Pressed his hand against the cold glass. His reflection stared back at him. Ordinary, forgettable, just another trainee. Tomorrow he would meet his training group. Tomorrow he would meet the species that looked down on humanity. Tomorrow he would smile, nod, and pretend to be less than he was. It was a role he knew well. In the distance, through the curved windows of the station, could see the observation deck. Massive shapes moved there. Even from this distance he could tell they were. Their bone-plated bodies caught the light. Their movements were slow, confident, the movements of creatures that had never known fear. Watched them for a long time. Then he turned away, lay down on his bed and closed his eyes. Tomorrow would be interesting. The training hall was the largest room had ever seen on a space station. It stretched for hundreds of meters in every direction. The ceiling was so high that clouds of vapor gathered near the top. Training equipment of every kind filled the space. Combat rings, shooting ranges, climbing walls designed for species with claws, tentacles, or wings. This was where the Galactic Union tested warriors. Stood at the edge of the hall with his assigned training group. They were a mixed collection of young beings from different species. Most of them ignored him completely. A few glanced at him with curiosity. 1 or 2 looked at him with open disgust. Humans were not popular in the galaxy. Earth had only made contact with alien life 50 years ago. In galactic terms, that was nothing. Humans were bobbies, newcomers. They had no reputation, no history, no power. Most species viewed them as slightly clever animals who had somehow stumbled into space travel by accident. Was used to this. He stood quietly at the back of the group and watched. Today was the combat aptitude demonstration. Each trainee would show what their species could do. It was meant to help build understanding and respect between different peoples. In reality, it was a chance for stronger species to show off and weaker species to feel small. The first demonstration came from a reptilian species with scales like metal. The trainee stepped into the combat ring and tore apart a training dummy with claws that could cut through steel. The crowd cheered and stamped their feet. Next came a pair of who demonstrated their species' ability to link minds and fight as one being. Their movements were perfectly matched, like a dance of death. More cheers. Then they stepped forward. The room went quiet. was the leader of the delegation. He stood over 7 feet tall. His body was covered in natural bone armor that looked thick enough to stop bullets. His eyes were yellow, with vertical pupils like a snake. When he moved, his joints made clicking sounds like stones grinding together. Did not fight a training dummy. He fought 3 of them at once, machines that would have killed most beings in seconds. He destroyed them in moments. His movements were not fast in the way small creatures were fast. They were powerful, unstoppable. Each strike cracked metal and shattered plastic. When he finished, the broken machines lay around him like fallen enemies. Nobody cheered. Nobody made a sound. They simply watched in silent respect and fear. They were apex predators. For 10,000 years, they had been the most feared hunters in the galaxy. They did not kill for food or survival. They killed because it was their nature, because they enjoyed it. The Galactic Union had spent centuries convincing them to use their skills for peace instead of war. But everyone knew the truth. There were monsters wearing the mask of civilization. After return to his place, the demonstrations continued. More species showed their abilities: fire breath, acid spit, telekinesis. The gallery of alien powers seemed endless. Then a voice called out, "Human trainee, you are next." Felt every eye in the room turn toward him. He walked forward slowly, keeping his movements small and unthreatening. He stepped into the combat ring and faced the training dummy. For a moment he simply stood there, then he began. He showed basic human hand-to-hand combat, punches, kicks, joint locks, simple techniques that any human soldier would learn in their first month of training. He moved at normal human speed. He struck with normal human force. He did nothing impressive. When he finished, silence filled the hall, not the respectful silence that had followed This was the silence of disappointment, of confusion, of contempt. A few beings laughed quietly. Others shook their heads. The human had shown nothing. He was exactly what they expected: weak, slow, unimpressive. Bowed and turned to leave the ring. "Wait." The voice was female and sharp like breaking glass. Stopped and turned. A tall figure stepped forward from the crowd. Her species was known for their beauty and their pride. She had silver skin that seemed to glow from within. Her eyes were purple, large and intelligent. Her hair floated around her head like it was underwater, moving with every shift of her body. She wore expensive clothes and jewelry that marked her as someone important. Had seen her name in the station records. She was the daughter of a high counselor. She had come to this station not to learn but to be seen, to make connections, to remind everyone that they were still one of the most powerful species in the Union. Walked toward the combat ring with slow, graceful steps. Her mouth was curved in a smile that held no warmth. "That was your demonstration?" she asked. Her voice carried across the silent hall. "That was what humans can do?" Faced her calmly. "Yes." "I see," laughed softly. "I had heard that humans were limited, but I did not realize how limited. You have no claws, no armor, no venom, no special abilities of any kind." She gestured at his body with obvious disgust. "You are soft, fragile. You live such short lives. What are you? 70 years, 80 if you are lucky." "About that," agreed. "My grandmother is 400 years old and still runs marathons." Walked around him in a slow circle, examining him like a bug under glass. "I truly do not understand why the Galactic Union admits your species. You contribute nothing. You have no history. Your planet is a disaster zone of disease and natural death. You are," she paused, searching for the right word, "evolutionary accidents, prey animals who somehow learned to build ships." Murmurs of agreement came from the watching crowd. A few beings laughed openly now. Stopped in front of and looked directly into his eyes. "Perhaps you would like to demonstrate your abilities against a real opponent instead of a machine. I challenge you to a sparring match. Right here. Right now." Looked at her for a long moment. His face showed nothing. No anger, no fear, no embarrassment. He was as calm as still water. "I respectfully decline," he said. The laughter grew louder, smile widened. Of course you do, because you know what would happen. I would break you in seconds, like the prey animal you are. She turned to address the crowd. You see, this is what humans truly are, cowards who run from any real threat. They talk about their potential and their adaptability, but when faced with true power, they shrink back like frightened children. She looked over her shoulder at, even they would not waste their time hunting something so pathetic. There would be no honor in it, no challenge. Killing a human would be like stepping on an insect. In the crowd stood with his arms crossed over his massive chest. His yellow eyes watched with an expression that was hard to read. He did not laugh with the others. He did not speak. He simply watched. Bowed his head slightly. You may be right, he said quietly. I apologize for disappointing everyone. He turned and walked out of the combat ring. The crowd parted to let him pass. Nobody wanted to stand close to the humiliated human. As passed through the exit, was waiting in the corridor outside. The older human's face was tense. You handled that well, said quietly. I handled it as I was supposed to. That woman, she is dangerous, not physically, politically. Her father has influence over half the Union Council if she decides to make your life difficult. She already has, said, but it does not matter, let her mock. Let them all mock, it changes nothing. Studied's calm face. Does it bother you, what she said? Stopped walking. He turned to look back at the training hall doors. Beyond them, he could hear the demonstrations continuing. More species showing off their power. More beings who believed they understood the universe and their place in it. No, said finally, it does not bother me. He looked at with eyes that were completely empty of emotion. Prey does not know it is prey until the hunt begins. Then he walked away, leaving standing alone in the corridor with a cold feeling in his stomach. 3 days passed after the combat demonstration. Continued his role as a quiet, forgettable trainee. He attended classes. He ate alone in the cafeteria. He spoke only when spoken to, and even then, his answers were short and polite. Most beings on the station had already forgotten his name. But not everyone. Made sure to remind everyone about the pathetic human whenever she could. She told the story of his humiliation at every social gathering. She laughed about how he had refused to fight, how he had bowed his head like a servant, how he had accepted her insults without any response. For her, was perfect proof that humans did not belong among the great species of the galaxy. The other trainees followed her lead. They avoided in the corridors. They refused to sit near him in classes. When group exercises required partners, was always the last one chosen. Always. He accepted all of this without complaint. He smiled politely. He thanked anyone who was even slightly kind to him. He was exactly what his cover required him to be, small, harmless, unimportant. But beneath the mask was working. Every night when the station grew quiet, he would leave his quarters and walk through the corridors. His steps were silent. His movements were careful. He visited sections of the station that most trainees never saw, maintenance areas, storage rooms, system control centers. He watched. He listened. He remembered everything. Someone on this station was planning something dangerous. That was why he was here. The Galactic Union Security Division had received intelligence about a possible attack. They did not know who. They did not know when. They only knew that Exodus Prime was the target. His job was to find the threat before it could act. On the 4th night, everything changed. The alarm began at exactly 300 station time. A loud, screaming sound that echoed through every corridor. Emergency lights flashed red. Automated voices announced the problem in a dozen languages. Coolant system breach in Section 12. Toxic gas release detected. All personnel evacuate immediately. Was already dressed and moving before the announcement finished. He ran through the corridors towards Section 12 while everyone else ran away from it. Emergency crews were gathering their equipment. Station security was setting up barriers. Nobody was going in yet. But did not wait. He pushed past a security officer who was too surprised to stop him. He ran down a corridor that was already filling with green fog. The gas was methyl chloride 7, deadly to most species within 30 seconds of exposure. Humans could survive longer, but not by much. Maybe 2 minutes before the lungs began to fail. Did not slow down. He heard voices ahead, screaming, crying, young voices. He found them in a storage room that had become a trap. 2 trainees, young females, barely adults by their species standards. They had been exploring parts of the station they were not supposed to visit. Now they were dying. The gas was thick here. Green clouds swirled around their bodies as they collapsed against the wall. Their silver skin was turning gray. Their eyes were filled with terror. Grabbed the first one and threw her over his shoulder. He ran back through the corridor, through the gas, back to the safety barrier. He handed her to the shocked emergency crew and turned around immediately. "Stop," someone shouted. "You cannot go back in there." Ignored them. He ran back into the green fog. The second was unconscious when he found her. Her breathing was weak. Her pulse was fading. Picked her up more carefully this time and carried her back through the corridor. The gas was thicker now. He could feel it burning his lungs. His eyes were watering. His body wanted to cough, to stop, to fall down. He kept running. When he emerged from the toxic zone, medical teams rushed forward. They took the second from his arms and placed her on a floating stretcher. Emergency medics swarmed around her, injecting drugs and pumping oxygen into her failing lungs. Stood alone, breathing heavily. Green residue covered his clothes. His skin was red and irritated. When he coughed, blood came up. A medical officer rushed toward him with scanning equipment. "Human, you need treatment immediately. That gas should have killed you. How are you still standing?" Wiped the blood from his mouth. I held my breath. "For how long?" Did not answer. The medical officer scanned him anyway. The readings made no sense. His oxygen levels were dangerously low, but his heart was steady. His lungs were damaged, but already beginning to heal. His body was doing things that human bodies were not supposed to do. "This is impossible," the medical officer said. "These readings are impossible." "I need to sit down," said quietly. He walked to a nearby bench and sat. Within moments his breathing was normal again. His coughing had stopped. The color was returning to his face. The medical officer stared at him with wide eyes. Then he ran off to report what he had seen. Hours later, both trainees were stable. They would live. The story spread quickly through the station. The pathetic human had saved them. The weak, soft, cowardly human had run into deadly gas without protection and carried them out one by one. Heard the news while eating breakfast with her political allies. Her face showed no expression, but inside she was disturbed. This did not fit her understanding of what humans were. It was wrong. There had to be an explanation. "He was lucky," she said finally. "Humans have strange chemistry. The gas probably did not affect him as much as it would affect us. It means nothing." Her allies agreed with her quickly, eager to please. But some of them exchanged glances when she was not looking. They were not so sure. In another part of the station, sat in his quarters with a holographic display floating before him. It showed personnel file. The file was almost entirely black, redacted, classified. Only the most basic information was visible. Name, species, origin world. Everything else had been removed by Galactic Union security. Had requested this file immediately after the combat demonstration. He had wanted to understand the strange feeling he had gotten while watching the human. Now, after hearing about the rescue, that feeling was stronger. A young entered the room. His name was. He was second in command, eager and aggressive, still learning the patience that true hunters required. "You requested the human's file?" asked. "Why, he is nothing, weak, small, Even by human standards, he appears ordinary. Did not look away from the display. What do you see when you look at this file? Stepped closer and studied the screen. I see nothing. Everything is hidden. Exactly. Touched a control and the file zoomed in on the security classification level. This is a level 7 restriction. Do you know how rare that is? I have seen files on war criminals with lower classifications. I have seen files on weapons of mass destruction with lower classifications. Was confused, but he is just a trainee, a cultural exchange observer. Why would his file be so protected? Finally turned to look at his young warrior. That is the question. Why indeed? He stood and walked to the window of his quarters. From here, he could see the training hall far below. Somewhere in that station, the human called was recovering from his exposure to toxic gas, recovering far faster than he should. I have hunted many species in my life, said slowly. I have learned to read the signs of dangerous prey, the way they move, the way they watch, the way they wait. He paused. That human moves like something pretending to be weak. He watches everything even when he seems to be looking at nothing, and he waits. He is always waiting. Waiting for what? His yellow eyes narrowed. That is what I intend to find out. That night was alone in the training hall. The station was sleeping. The lights were dim. He had disabled the security cameras hours ago. Nobody would see what he did here. He began to move. No longer slow, no longer clumsy, no longer weak. He flowed through combat forms with perfect precision. His strikes cut the air with sounds like snapping whips. His movements were faster than the eye could follow. Each technique was designed to kill, to cripple, to destroy. This was not what he had shown in the demonstration. This was something else entirely, something that would terrify anyone watching. Stood in the shadows near the door. He had been watching for several minutes. His face was pale. He spoke into a small communicator hidden in his sleeve. He is getting restless. The cover is holding, but barely. He almost exposed himself during the rescue. He listened to a response that only he could hear. How much longer do you need him here? The answer made him close his eyes in worry. When he looked again, had stopped moving. He stood perfectly still in the center of the hall, breathing normally, as if he had not just demonstrated skills that would make elite soldiers look like children. Stepped out of the shadows. You knew I was there. Yes, said without turning around. You breathed too loudly. Walked closer. The medical reports from your rescue are causing questions. The doctors cannot explain how you survived, how you healed so fast. People are starting to notice. Let them notice. That is not the mission. Finally turned. His eyes were cold, empty. The mission is to find the threat and stop it. My cover helps with that, but if the cover becomes an obstacle, it becomes unnecessary. Felt a chill run down his spine. You cannot expose yourself. Not yet, not here. Stared at him for a long moment. Then something shifted behind his eyes. The coldness faded. He became the quiet, harmless trainee again. I understand, he said. I will be more careful. He walked past toward the exit. As he passed, noticed something. Was not sweating. After all that movement, all that speed, all that power, his skin was completely dry. Human bodies sweated when they worked hard. Everyone knew that. Watched disappear into the corridor and wondered, not for the first time, what exactly Anthropic Security had sent to this station. The joint training exercise was supposed to be safe. That was what the instructors promised. A simple survival test in a holographic jungle environment. Teams would navigate through difficult terrain, avoid simulated predators, and reach a checkpoint within 3 hours. Nothing dangerous, nothing deadly, just another day of training. Was assigned to Team 7. He learned of his placement when the team lists were posted that morning. His teammates were not happy about it. The human, one trainee complained. We have to carry the human. He will slow us down, another agreed. We will fail because of him. But the assignments could not be changed. Joined his team at the entrance to the simulation chamber. There were 6 of them in total, 2 with their metal scales, 1 with its perfect memory, 1 a species known for their strength, and the woman stood apart from the group, her arms crossed over her chest, her purple eyes fixed on with obvious disgust. "Of course," she said, "of course they put me with the human. Someone at command has a terrible sense of humor." Said nothing. He simply checked his equipment and waited for the exercise to begin. The doors opened. The team stepped into the jungle. It was not real, of course. The trees were made of hard light. The animals were holographic projections. The mud under their feet was a synthetic material designed to feel authentic. But it looked real. It sounded real. It even smelled real, filled with the thick scent of alien plant life and distant water. Immediately took command. "I will lead, the will take the front, takes the rear, will navigate, human." She paused, her lip curling, "Try not to fall behind." The team moved through the jungle in formation. The simulated environment created challenges at every turn, rivers to cross, cliffs to climb, predator sounds in the distance, guided them around most obstacles with confidence. She was not stupid, noted. She was arrogant, but she was also skilled. An hour into the exercise, the first strange thing happened. A sound echoed through the jungle, not a holographic sound, something different, something that made every team member stop moving at once. The large eyes went wide. That was not part of the simulation. "What do you mean?" demanded. "I memorized the exercise parameters. I know every sound file in the system. That sound was not included." Before anyone could respond, alarms began to wail. Red lights flashed through the holographic trees. An automated voice filled the air. "Warning, containment failure. Live specimens released into simulation chamber. All personnel evacuate immediately. This is not a drill." For a moment, nobody moved. Then the screaming started. It came from somewhere to their left, another team. The screams were cut short with terrible suddenness. Then there was only silence. "What is happening?" one of them asked. His scales were rattling with fear. Moved before anyone else. He climbed a nearby tree with surprising speed and looked out over the jungle canopy. What he saw made his expression go cold. "We need to move," he said as he dropped back to the ground. "Now." "What did you see?" demanded. "Hunting beasts, 3 of them. They are between us and the exit." The team went silent. Everyone knew what hunting beasts were, massive predators from They were used for elite training exercises. Each one was as large as a ground transport vehicle. They had 6 legs, armored bodies, and jaws that could bite through starship hull plating. They were supposed to be kept in secure containment on a completely different level of the station. Somehow they were here now. "The containment system," they said quietly. "Someone sabotaged it. Someone let them out deliberately." Silver Skin had turned pale. "We need to call for help, we need." A roar split the air, close, too close. "Run," said. The team ran. But the jungle was designed to slow movement. Vines caught their feet. Roots tripped them. The simulated environment had become a death trap. Behind them they could hear the hunting beasts getting closer. Heavy footsteps, breaking branches, the sound of something massive moving through the trees. One of them fell. They helped him up, but they lost precious seconds. The sounds behind them grew louder. Then stumbled. Her foot caught on a root and she went down hard. She tried to stand, but her ankle would not support her weight. She had twisted it badly. The team kept running. They did not notice she had fallen. Tried to call out, but fear had stolen her voice. She could only watch as her teammates disappeared into the jungle. She was alone, injured, unable to run. The bushes in front of her began to move. The hunting beast that emerged was even more terrifying than the stories described. It was covered in black scales that seemed to absorb light. Its 6 legs ended in claws as long as her forearm. Its head was mostly mouth, filled with rows of teeth designed to shred meat from bone. Eyes like red coals fixed on her with terrible hunger. Tried to use her energy manipulation. Her species could generate force fields, push objects with their minds, but fear had broken her concentration. The power flickered and died before it could form. The beast stepped closer. It lowered its head. Its jaws opened wide. Closed her eyes and waited to die. The impact never came. Instead, she heard a sound like thunder, a grunt of pain, the thud of something heavy hitting the ground. She opened her eyes. Stood between her and the beast. His simple trainee clothes were torn. Blood ran down his arm from where the beast's claws had grazed him, but he was standing, and the beast was on the ground, struggling to rise. "Get up," said without looking at her. His voice was different now. Cold, flat, empty of all emotion. "Move toward the rock formation on your left. There is a gap you can hide in." "I cannot walk, my ankle." "Then crawl." The beast recovered and lunged at. What happened next broke everything thought she knew about humans. Did not run, he stepped into the attack. His movements were nothing like what he had shown in the combat demonstration. They were blindingly fast, perfectly precise, absolutely lethal. He caught the beast's jaws with his bare hands. His fingers found gaps in the scale armor around its neck. He twisted. The beast made a horrible sound and collapsed. Stared in disbelief. He had killed it with his hands, a creature that could shred through metal, a creature that warriors hunted in teams of 10. He had killed it in seconds. But there was no time to process what she had seen. 2 more beasts burst through the trees. Moved again. He was faster than before. Each strike targeted specific points on the creature's bodies, joints, nerve clusters, weak points in the armor. He knew exactly where to hit, exactly how hard. The beasts never had a chance. In less than a minute, all 3 hunting beasts lay dead on the jungle floor. Stood over their bodies. His breathing was slow and steady. His torn clothes were soaked with blood, some his own, most not. His eyes scanned the jungle for more threats. When he turned to look at, she felt a fear deeper than anything the beasts had caused. This was not a human. This was something else. Something wearing human skin. Something with eyes as cold and dead as the void between stars. "Can you move?" he asked. Nodded. She did not trust her voice. "Good. The exit is 200 meters northeast. I will carry you if necessary." He reached down to help her stand. His hand was warm, human, but she had seen what that hand could do now. Before they could move, sounds came from the jungle. Many sounds, heavy footsteps, breaking branches, clicking joints. Burst through the trees with his entire hunting party. 12 warriors armed with the finest weapons their civilization could produce. They had been sent to contain the escaped beasts. They stopped cold when they saw the scene before them. 3 hunting beasts, the most dangerous creatures from there, dead, torn apart by someone who had used no weapons at all. And standing over the bodies, covered in blood and completely calm, was the quiet human trainee they had all dismissed as worthless. One of the younger raised his weapon toward. It was pure instinct. The response of a predator confronted with something that triggered every danger sense in its body. His hand shot out and forced the weapon down. "No," he commanded. "But sir." "I said no." His yellow eyes were locked on. He had never seen anything like this. In 300 years of hunting, he had never seen anything like this. The warriors stood in a loose circle around, and none of them moved closer. None of them spoke. The most feared hunters in the galaxy stood at a respectful distance from a single human. And in that moment, finally understood. They were not showing curiosity. They were showing fear. "We will escort you to the medical bay," said finally. His voice was carefully controlled. "Can you walk, human?" looked at him with those empty eyes. "I can walk," she cannot. Without waiting for a response, bent down and lifted in his arms. She weighed almost nothing to him. He walked through the circle of warriors like they were not there. None of them tried to stop him. None of them dared. As they moved toward the exit, looked over shoulder at the following behind them. 12 apex predators, the greatest hunters in the galaxy. They walked in formation behind a single human. Not surrounding him. Following him. Like soldiers following a commander, they feared too much to question. Closed her eyes and tried to understand what she had seen, but understanding would not come, not yet. All she knew was that everything she believed about humans had been wrong. Terribly, completely wrong. The medical bay was quiet, lay on a treatment bed while automated systems healed her twisted ankle. The process would take several hours. She had nothing to do but wait and think. She did not want to think. Thinking meant remembering. Remembering meant seeing those images again and again, standing over the dead beasts, moving faster than her eyes could follow, looking at her with eyes that held nothing human at all. The door to her room opened. She expected a medical officer, instead stepped inside. The massive seemed too large for the small room. His bone-plated body barely fit through the doorway. He moved carefully, slowly, like someone trying not to frighten a scared animal. "May I speak with you?" he asked. His voice was low, careful, nothing like the commanding tone he used with his warriors. Nodded, she was too exhausted to refuse. Pulled a chair closer to her bed and sat. Even sitting, he was taller than most beings would be standing. His yellow eyes studied her face with an expression she could not read. "You want to know about the human," he said. It was not a question. "Yes," his voice was barely a whisper. "What is he? I saw what he did. That was not possible. No human should be able to do that. No being should be able to do that." Was silent for a long moment. When he spoke again, his voice had changed. It was softer, almost sad. "I am going to tell you something that my people do not share with outsiders, something that we have kept secret for a very long time." He leaned forward. "I am telling you because you deserve to understand what you saw, and because ignorance of humans is a luxury the galaxy can no longer afford." Waited. 50 years ago, when humans first made contact with the Galactic Union, my people studied them carefully. We study all new species. It is our way. We need to know if they are prey or predator, threat or opportunity. I remember the reports said humans were classified as non-threatening, low priority, a minor species with limited capabilities. Those reports were lies. Blink to what? They wrote those reports. We wrote them deliberately. We told the galaxy that humans were weak and harmless because we wanted the galaxy to leave them alone. We wanted time to understand what we had found. I do not understand. His massive hands clenched and unclenched, a gesture of discomfort that had never seen from a. When we first studied humans, we thought they would be perfect prey, soft bodies, short lives, no natural weapons, no armor, no venom or claws or special abilities. They seemed ideal for the hunt, so we organized an expedition. 100 of our finest hunters traveled to Earth to study humans in their natural environment. He paused. His yellow eyes became distant, lost in memory. 17 returned. The words hung in the air like ice. 17, repeated slowly, out of 100. 17, and 4 of those died from their injuries within the year. His voice was heavy with old grief. We lost 83 of our best warriors to a species that had not even developed faster-than-light travel yet. 83 killed by creatures we thought were prey. Could not speak. She could not process what she was hearing. "Do you know what we learned from that disaster?" continued. "We learned that everything we thought we knew about predators was wrong. We thought being a predator meant being fast or strong or armored. We thought it meant having weapons built into your body. We were fools. He stood and walked to the window. Outside, the stars burned cold and distant. Humans do not need claws. They make weapons from anything. Stone, metal, chemicals. They are tool makers beyond any species we have ever encountered. Give a human a rock and an hour and they will build something that can kill you. But weapons alone. It is not just weapons. Turn back to face her. Humans are persistence predators. Do you know what that means? Shook her head. Most predators kill with speed. They strike quickly and hope for a fast kill. If the prey escapes, they give up and wait for easier targets. Humans are different. Humans follow. They track. They chase. They do not stop. His voice dropped lower. On Earth, there is a hunting technique called the persistence hunt. The human chooses a prey animal and begins to follow it. The animal runs. It is faster than the human. It escapes easily. But the human does not stop. The human keeps walking, following, always following. The animal runs again, escapes again, rests for a moment. Then the human appears again, still following, still walking. The animal runs. The human follows. This continues for hours, days sometimes. The animal runs and runs until its body cannot run anymore, until its heart gives out from exhaustion, until it simply falls down and waits to die. Its yellow eyes were bright with something that might have been fear. That is what humans are. They do not need to be faster than you. They do not need to be stronger. They just need to be more patient. They will follow you across mountains, across deserts, across continents. They will follow you until you cannot take another step, and then they will be there, waiting. Thought of his calm patience during her mockery, his quiet waiting, his endless, unshakable calm. There is more, said. Humans evolved on a death world. Do you know what that classification means? A world with extreme conditions, dangerous wildlife, unstable environment. Earth is all of those things and worse. The gravity is crushing by galactic standards. The weather patterns are violent and unpredictable. The water is filled with salt that would kill most species. The land is filled with creatures that bite, sting, poison, and crush. And the humans did not just survive there. They conquered it. They spread across every environment on their planet. Deserts, jungles, frozen wastelands, volcanic islands. They adapted to everything. They survived everything. Walked back to his chair and sat heavily. His armor clicked against the metal frame. Their bodies are designed for damage. They can lose limbs and keep fighting. They can break bones and heal them stronger. They can be poisoned and their systems will learn to resist that poison. They feel pain, but pain does not stop them. They feel fear, but fear does not control them. They are the most terrifying prey animals the universe has ever produced because they refuse to stay prey. And the human on this station, asked, was silent for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was barely above a whisper. The file we received on him is almost entirely redacted. Level 7 classification. That is the highest level of security restriction in the Galactic Union. That level is reserved for weapons programs, state secrets, and existential threats. Existential threats. Yes, met her eyes. Whatever he has done, the Galactic Union considers him important enough to hide completely. They did not send a trainee to this station. They sent a weapon. A weapon for what? I do not know, but I can guess. Glanced at the door, then back at. The sabotage that released the hunting beasts was not an accident. Someone on this station is planning something. Something dangerous enough that the Union sent one of their most classified assets to stop it. Remembered the coolant leak, the toxic gas, the convenient timing, the earlier emergencies. Perhaps tests, perhaps distractions, perhaps attempts to expose or eliminate the hidden threat, meaning before he could complete his mission. Shook his head slowly. We are living in the middle of a shadow war and we did not even realize it. Does know who the saboteur is. If he does, he has not acted yet, which means he is still gathering information, still waiting, made a sound that might have been a laugh, still hunting. lay back against her pillow and stared at the ceiling. Everything she thought she understood about the galaxy had shifted. Humans were not prey. They had never been prey. The soft, short-lived, seemingly harmless species that she had mocked and dismissed were something else entirely. "When young warriors reach maturity," said quietly, "we show them recordings, combat footage, historical documents, evidence of what happens when our people underestimate dangerous prey." "What kind of recordings?" "Human soldiers, human wars, human history." His voice was heavy. "We show them so they will understand, so they will never make the same mistake we made." He stood and walked toward the door. Before he left, he turned back one more time. "You called humans prey animals, evolutionary accidents. You challenged one to fight and laughed when he refused." His yellow eyes held no judgment, only grim understanding. "You are alive right now because he chose to save you instead of leaving you behind. Remember that. Remember what he is, and remember what he could have done but did not." The door closed behind him. Stared at the ceiling for a long time. In her mind she saw his face, not the cold, empty mask he had worn while killing the beasts, the other face, the quiet one, the patient one, the face of something ancient and terrible pretending to be ordinary, pretending to be harmless, pretending to be prey. The galaxy had spent 50 years ignoring humans, dismissing them, laughing at them. And all that time the humans had been watching, learning, waiting. Thought about the future, about what would happen when humanity stopped pretending, when they stopped being patient, when they finally showed the galaxy what they really were. She found herself hoping she would not live to see it.